All right, everybody. Welcome back to Pop Goes the Zebra. Jeremy the ref. He's Jesse the ref. And this is your daily dose of insanity. Ah, Jesse, what's been going on, man?
Uh, Thankfully, not getting swept away with the floods that have hit Middle Tennessee. So, kind of thankful for that. Um, but unfortunately, I had a friend that was not so fortunate. He lost his apartment
Oof.
and all his belongings. So, been trying to help him out as best I can. But other than that, it's day two at the new job, which got hit with the flood water too. So it's been
Just
trying
keep
to get that
swimming.
stuff squared away. So,
Oh, that's awful.
ooh, Nashville, man, I hate to say it, and don't get funny about it, but Nashville really seems to have this string of bad luck.
Now, why would you
Tornadoes,
say that I would have something to say about that? Why is that?
yeah, well, you know.
Anyway,
I believe we are playing Chicago either this weekend or next weekend. I believe here in Smashville.
oh
I
God.
will not be able to attend. I think it's next weekend, and I will not be able to attend as I will be in Tampa.
Mm.
So you know, I'm
Oh,
not going to be
Tampa.
able to go. Not going to be able to go boo
You're not gonna
the
be able
Hawks
to
in
go
person.
smash the car with the sledgehammer. Throw a tuna on the ice. I hate your team with a
Honestly,
passion. Your team is the
you know,
absolute fucking epitome of everything that is wrong with life. Just
you know what?
go away. You cannot sit at the
Here's
big
what's
boys
funny.
table. Go away.
Here's what's funny. We don't have like it's only with Detroit that we have that whole catfish thing.
I
We
know.
don't do it with any other team.
I
We
know.
don't do
I'm
anything
still
with you
gonna mock you.
guys.
Oh yeah, you just try to keep us out and fail miserably. I wouldn't be surprised if there's Hawks fans at that game that outsell the Predators fans again.
Uh,
But
Honestly, it would not surprise me at this point.
I know, I know. It's because Nashville is many things. A hockey town's not one of them. That's right. I said it. I can't wait to go down there someday with my Blackhawks jersey on and start fights. Donniebrooks, if you will. Donniebrooks.
Full Tilly, bro.
Full
Full
Tilly.
Tilly, bro.
Full Tilly. That's right. Screw the hat trick. We're just going straight for the fight.
No,
Speaking of
no Gordie Howe
fights,
hat trick.
look, no Gordie Howe hat trick. We're just going straight for the fight. But speaking of fights, I think that's the perfect way to segue into what we're going to talk about today. Our favorites. Well, hold on. I do want to put an asterisk next to that. Some of our favorites, because we have talked about favorites and things like that in passing here before. We're just going to pick out some matches and talk about them briefly and break down why we like them. Couple from television or internet, as it were, and a couple from that we've been a part of. Now, and especially on that, we're not necessarily saying that they're our favorite matches of all time, because as a dear friend of mine has said, it's like picking your favorite child. You know, we're going to talk about some that stick out in our mind. So Jesse, it was my idea, so I'm just going to put you under the gun first. Give me a match from the annals of time that you liked, and preferably from a major promotion. Let's talk about it. Why do you like it? Who is it? What was it about? Tell the story.
It would be the second match at Backlash 2000.
Okay.
It would be the light heavyweight championship match between Dean Malenko and Scotty 2 Hotty.
An infamous match available
It
on
is
the
one of those
Peacock
matches.
Network.
It is one of those matches that when you look at it just on a card, you look, oh man, you get all these superstars. It's Triple H and The Rock and all this stuff. They're gonna have great matches. And you see towards the front of the card, you see Malenko and Scotty, and you think, oh, it's gonna be a 5 minute blah blah blah.
Yeah, with
These
entrances.
these guys these guys go 17 minutes and put on probably one of the best matches that era of WWF ever saw. Just the technical aspect, the storytelling aspect, just an absolute from start to finish. Even the finish itself was incredible. just the DDT off the top rope. That was man. And it's one of those things, every match after that had to see them come through the curtain and just be so fuming, knowing they
follow
had to
that,
follow
boys.
That. Like, follow that, boys. That will always be, to me, that is a sleeper match. When we talk about matches to refer to people like at Crux, when we're doing training and we tell, hey guys, these are matches you should go back and look at. That's my choice. It's like, go back and look at how Malenko just absolutely, the psychology of what he's doing, everything has a purpose. There's no wasted motion. There's no overuse. There's no underuse. It's just the right amount of aggression and storytelling. I just love the match. And then Scotty 2 Hotty, man, that guy does not get enough credit for being just absolute
awesome
workhorse. Dude, you're so
awesome.
good. I put him and Christian. Oh yeah, the worm. Him and Christian, I think, were some of like the more solid workers that just never really got a lot of props for their
throw them
ability.
in like the Owen Hart category almost. Well, actually, I'm gonna walk that back, because I kind of put Owen Hart in that class of greatest wrestlers to never hold the world title. I think
and I don't think he needed it.
Who, Owen Hart?
Yeah, I don't think he needed it.
I think he deserved it. I think he deserved a run as
he deserved
champion.
it, but he didn't need it.
Well, that's nobody the thing. He needs it. Nobody needs it.
Yeah, but I'm not going to jump to another match just yet. But I want to hint.
Yeah, but anyway, back to Malenko and Scotty 2 Hotty.
And Scotty,
you're talking about guys that, probably never got any higher than mid-card in WWE. That was kind of where they were relegated to. But I don't really think that bothered guys like them too much. They got a fresher crowd. They were able to get, they're in the second match here. It's not like the crowd had been sitting out there for, 3 hours at this point, and then they got to sit through a Dean Malenko and Scotty 2 Hotty match that's going to be rushed in 5 minutes and be done. No, they got us, as you said, a 17-minute classic early on in the night, and it's still one of those matches that are talked about to this day.
I was gonna say, I think the match that was before them was the Outlaws and Edge and Christian, or it wasn't Outlaws, or it was, because I know X-Pac was involved, because Christian bops him with the ring bell and just splits his head wide open.
He gave him the boop. Oh, could you imagine? Christian just comes through. Hey, Pac. Boop. You'll never work in this town again. He gave, what's the finish? A boop.
Chris Statlander.
Shout out to the extraterrestrial herself. So for me, I'm gonna go with a classic, just because we're talking story going into it, story coming out of it, story told in it, and the fact that it forced Dave Meltzer, who I have nothing but disdain for, it forced him to give a 5-star rating to a WWE match, which I know had to kill him inside. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, Hell in the Cell, In Your House, Bad Blood. This set the bar.
When you started talking about Meltzer giving it a 5-star, I was like, I know what match.
Yeah, I have nothing but disdain for a guy like Dave Meltzer, who has never booked a show in his life, has never held a hold in his life, and yet so many people strive to know his opinion on what we do. So yeah, I don't have time for Dave Meltzer. But anyways, Shawn versus Taker, the story going into it, Shawn Michaels had cost The Undertaker the world title some months prior. They tried to have a match a month earlier. That did not go as planned, interference. So they decided to throw them in a steel cage with a roof on it. Backdrop of this, Paul Bearer has been talking about revealing a long lost secret. And then of course, your brother Kane is alive. And now you've got Shawn Michaels, who would go down as, if not number one, 1A, 1B of all time greatest workers. And one of the greatest attractions, and in my opinion, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, in The Undertaker, who had really, up to this point, been opposite ends of the universe. And then they go in, and a lot of guys today would be put in that same environment, and it would be like two cats in an alleyway, just and you're trying to keep. No, you watch that match. Bell rings. Undertaker's just slowly stalking Shawn, and Shawn's trying to keep distance, and they do very, very little, but the anticipation is building, and they do a little bit. Undertaker's on top, and it's just telling the story. Shawn's got nowhere to go. He's paying for his sins, and there's not a damn thing that his cronies can do because they're locked out. And just the way that the story, breaks down. Eventually, Shawn finds a way out of the cage. He beats up a cameraman, and of course, Undertaker follows, and the infamous bump from the first bump from the cell happens, and Shawn's a bloody mess. Shawn has gotten his ass kicked for a good 85% of this match, save for a couple of key spots where he was able to get some offense in, but for all intents and purposes, a guy Shawn's size is not going to be carrying the fight against the Undertaker in 1997. Later on, it'd be a little bit more, 50-50. But at that point, Shawn is very much the chicken shit heel that knows he can't take the Undertaker, nose to nose. But, they get back into the cell, and Taker just the final blow is what started the whole process in the first place. And it was a chair shot, which doesn't age particularly well in the era that we are now, with concussions being what they are. But I will admit that in this story, it was appropriate. Not that any I'm not saying chair shots to the head are appropriate, but at that point in time, absolutely 100% for the story, because Taker got hit in the head with a chair. So Shawn has to get hit in the head with a chair. Shawn is beaten, but then we're introduced to Kane. And the rest is history. And they did all that in the span of some 20-25 minutes. They never rushed. Everything meant something. The pacing was awesome. They didn't do too much. It was right there. You want to watch a match with psychology, I will tell you to go watch that match. Go watch Shawn versus Taker, Hell in the Cell. That's how you do a gimmick match without overdoing it.
Absolutely. You pretty much nailed it with just it's that slow build where you feel like, all right, there's nothing Shawn can do. This match is 100% going to be won by the Undertaker, and somehow Shawn gets the win.
There was a point I wanted to make on that. It felt very appropriate considering where they were at in terms of geography. They were in St. Louis. It was very Ric Flair-esque, old school territory wrestling-esque, that the chicken shit heel, the chicken shit champion, walks into a town with all this bravado, with all of this, charisma, blah, 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 and just gets his ass handed to him. Just thoroughly, categorically gets the shit kicked out of him. His face is redder than a tomato by the time that match is over, and he's the guy that walked out with his hand raised, very much like Ric Flair used to do back in the territory days. He'd go from town to town to town, and their local guy would go after that NWA title that he had, and Flair would get his ass kicked and somehow leave with his hand in the air. For 58 minutes, that local boy looked like Godzilla beating up a town. And then all of a sudden, Rick pulls a fast one and he escapes out the back door. Kind of that's what it kind of reminds me of here. And I thought it's very appropriate because St. Louis is a very old wrestling city. So you do something like that. That's just a little caveat, man, that just made it work that much more for me.
Well, it's a little bit more appropriate that Shawn Michaels really idolized Ric Flair in taking that Ric Flair approach of, okay, well, I'm just going to go out there and sell and get my ass kicked, but I'm still going to walk out the winner. And just such a Oh, such a good match. Now that makes me want to fire that one up and rewatch it. That is
Oh,
just a solid
I got a
match.
couple here that you're gonna probably go straight to the Peacock Network and throw on. But before we do that, what you got another one in mind?
I do. I was rewatching King of the Ring 2001 just a few nights ago. I've got two matches off of
Please.
that one. They're both gonna feature our Olympic hero Kurt Angle.
I've got one
The
that it
opening
features
match.
Kurt Angle,
There should be at least 5 on this list that have Kurt Angle, if
and
not
I can
more.
pivot if you take one of them, so I'm good.
Yeah. Um, the opening match for King of the Ring is Kurt Angle versus Christian. Again, on paper, you're kind of like, eh.
That's an
But then
opening
you
match, by the way. Think about that. 20 some years later versus where we're at now, and just how stacked that roster was. That Kurt Angle versus Christian is a preliminary match.
Yeah. And it's another one of those. I think they maybe had 8-10 minutes, maybe a little bit more. It was just a simple match where Christian being a veteran over Kurt Angle. Think about that. Christian's the veteran over Kurt at that point. And it was a storytelling match. It was very simple. Kurt, towards the very end, there's the interference with Kurt and Shane McMahon that allows Kurt Angle to get the win because Shane McMahon wants Kurt to wrestle as much as possible before their street fight that night. So not only was the match good, the finish was excellent for telling the story that it needed. It set the pace for the rest of the night. And of course, Kurt had to go on and work Edge.
Of course.
He gets beat. And then he goes on to have the match with Shane McMahon. Now, the only reason I'm kind of shoehorning these together because they're in the same pay-per-view.
It's a daisy chain.
The fact that Kurt Angle basically just worked probably 2 solid 10 to 12 minute matches early in the night with a little bit of a break. Then he goes out and has like this 30-minute street fight with Shane McMahon, who's not a wrestler.
He is not Lou Thesz by any stretch of the imagination.
But I mean, for somebody that could go out there and do the things that they did, which it started off not even as it's the street fight, but it was chain wrestling. It was the mat wrestling with Shane trying to one up Kurt and Kurt finally getting upset and, bringing in, the hard blows. Shane gets the plunder and then we're off to the races with all the gimmicks getting involved. Poor Mike Chioda gets cracked in the inner leg with a kendo stick, and you can just visibly see how much he was in pain, trying not to register it.
Oh yeah.
And it's just you feel so bad for him because we've been there. And everything's it's pretty solid hardcore match, and they start brawling up the ramp. Shane hits Kurt with just a suplex, breaks Kurt's tailbone, and you can tell Kurt is in so much pain. In a modern day, the referee's going to throw up the X and stop the match, but not with Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon. Kurt wanted to keep going. They keep going. They brawl over to the entranceway. Here comes the infamous suplex spot. Goes to put Shane through. Shane doesn't go. Again, at this point, modern day, with the hindsight of today, it would have been no mas, no more. They kept wanting to tell that story. No matter how beat up and abused they were, they wanted to tell their story and they wanted to finish the match. With Vince McMahon just feet away, screaming, "Tell him to stop! Tell him to stop!"
Yeah, that's his baby boy.
And honestly, like the fact that they used real glass instead of the sugar glass
that could have gone sideways.
You could see how like Kurt's arms were cut up, Shane was all cut up. This was like something you would expect to see at a CZW event Japanese death match, but this was a WWF match on one of their big pay-per-views with the boss's son and a megastar in the making. And it's just, you would think out of all that brutality, wheeling Shane to the ring, that was it. And that wasn't it.
Nope.
Kurt
hits
wait, there's more. The coup de grace was the angle slam. He had to get the angle slam off the top rope. That's it. It was
violent.
It was violent. It was a roller coaster ride of emotions, but it still, in all that craziness, was telling a story.
Yeah.
It's just
it's been a while since I've watched that match, but I definitely remember like the very first time I watched it, I just went, oh my God.
See, and I have the satisfaction of having seen it within like the last week, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. And I just remember, I remember this was pretty crazy. Oh my, I don't remember it being that bad. the amount of blood.
It's a car crash.
It was crazy.
It was a car crash.
It was pure car crash. But man, those are those kind of matches that make me forget that I understand what's going on, and I'm still hooked. I'm still invested in watching. And I loved it.
Yeah.
Hated it, but I loved it.
Oh God. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick with Kurt Angle, but I'm I'm gonna throw in one of my favorites, and it sucks because no matter how much I beg Steve Tortorello, I will never ever ever get Eddie Guerrero at Warrior. But Kurt, I will get to watch for as much as I want. Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 20. I love that match, and here's why. It was not a main event match. It was late middle card. It did not have it didn't have any gimmicks to it. There was no table spots. There wasn't a 15-foot ladder bump. It was a wrestling match between two mat technicians that knew and still know how to tell a story. And just watching those two, there wasn't a lot of fanfare going into the match, outside of Eddie, Kurt Angle saying Eddie Guerrero is not the kind of guy you want as champion, and I'm going to prove it at WrestleMania. And Eddie said, "Bring it on." That was it. That was the build of the match. It starts out a lot of mat wrestling, great chain wrestling sequences. It looks like a struggle. They're not just going from move to move to move to move to move. They are struggling for position. It's very much a case of it's like watching two bulls try to establish dominance, and just like neither one of them can get that advantage at first, and they're very equal. And eventually, wouldn't you know it, the heel throws the first shot, knee to the stomach, and now we're working the abdomen, throw on that abdominal stretch, get belly to belly, stuff like that. And it just, over the course of the match, things slowly ramp up. Again, a lot of guys will just go into a match like that, in a situation like that, and they'll just, it's fine that you can do that, but the crowd is not always going to be able to catch every nuance you're trying to throw in there. Sometimes less is more. And this is a prime example. Watch the facial expressions. Watch Eddie and Kurt. Because have you ever met Kurt Angle?
Actually, no, I don't think I have.
We had him at Warrior, and I just shook his hand, and looking into his eyes, I was terrified, because he just has that look on his face, just that look in his eyes, that I am ready to rip somebody's arm off at the drop of a hat. And everybody in this building knows I can and will. Kurt Angle just has these laser focused eyes at all times in this match. He reminds me of a shark that smells blood. And I'm going to use that analogy later. You know, Eddie, for his part, he's unsure in his newfound role as champion. He plays that up just a little bit because it wasn't too long ago. Eddie was at the mid card level and seemed like he was always going to be stuck there. He was going to be a mid carder or a tag team champion for his whole career. And he found himself in a position where he capitalized. So a little of that plays onto his face. He's unsure in his role. He's wary of his opponent, but he's still Eddie Guerrero, man. He's got that fiery machismo, man. And you see it slowly get sprinkled in until finally they start to go to the finish. And I love this finish because it draws the
this
crowd.
This is one of my favorites.
The crowd is allowed to play along, and Eddie did this so well. In fact, he did it in his last match too, his last ever match. His face tells the story better than the moves ever could. Angle's been working the ankle lock. He has just gone for it and gone for it and gone for it and damaged that ankle. And Eddie is able to do a somersault and launch Angle out of the ring. And he immediately goes to his boot, Eddie does, and he starts untying his boot, seemingly to sell the ankle injury. He's trying to get some pressure off of that ankle. And Angle just gets up and he just looks across the ring at Eddie, and Eddie just goes, "Oh shit." And like a shark that sees an injured seal, what does Angle do? What does any predator do? The second he sees a weakened animal, he charges. Angle charges, but out of nowhere, Eddie catches him with a schoolboy and laces his feet in the ropes as Eddie Guerrero lies and cheats and steals. It's part of the gimmick. But 1, 2, 3, Angle gets suckered in.
You kind of forgot the little part. Angle gets the ankle lock on. And the boot comes off.
Yes, I did forget that. Angle gets him. That's why the boot was. I jumped ahead of it. I jumped it.
Yeah.
But yes.
The boot comes off. Kurt's confused. All of a sudden, here comes Eddie.
Catches him with the inside cradle, and Angle's still holding the boot. And of course, 1, 2, 3. And did you notice this little detail? Because later on in the night is the infamous hugging session with Eddie and Chris Benoit at the end of the main event. Eddie goes out there in full gear, and Angle throws the boot at Eddie. But I'm like, oh my God, that is how he got the boot back. Because what's Angle gonna do in the back? It was, here, Eddie, here's your boot, right? Just that little thing. Like, I don't think it was ever
just
thought
a little bit,
but
I don't think it was thought of. It was just
it worked because now Eddie's not going out there in the main event with one boot, you know.
And see, like I said, the thing with professional wrestling is you watch it for so long, you see all these variations of finishes, and it's all the same thing. This was such a unique finish because to my knowledge, and at least at the time and to this day, I've never seen anybody do that.
Brilliant. It was brilliant. And I mentioned that it wasn't the only time we would see Eddie do that. Let his face draw you in, let his facials. I remember vividly, and I'm not going to throw this as one of my favorites, but I'm going to use it as another example. It was the final match of Eddie Guerrero's career, sadly, but it was Eddie Guerrero versus Mr. Kennedy. Winner gets a spot on the Survivor Series team. Squash spot in the corner. Charles Robinson goes down. And Mr. Kennedy goes down because he took the bump in the corner with Charles Robinson. So Kennedy goes down. Charles goes down. Eddie is where my head is. And he just goes. And you could just see the wheels turn. Sure enough, slides out of the ring. Goes and gets the chair. Comes back in. Gears up like he's going to hit Mr. Kennedy. But he sees Charles Robinson getting up. So what does he do? Smacks it on the floor, throws it to Mr. Kennedy, falls back, holding his head. Charles, you hit him with the chair. But that face, you knew what was coming before the finish even happened. You knew, Eddie knew, and he was letting you know they just screwed up, and I am going to win because of it. And again, face tells more than a mouth ever will, more than a slam ever will. It's the body language. It's how you project. It's here. This is where the story happens. Right here. And Eddie Guerrero epitomized that.
And I'll tell you this much. Anytime I'm on a show and we talk about getting certain finishes together, I'm always a proponent. I'm like, I hate, because it involves me having to take a bump. I love the Eddie Guerrero finish. I love those kind of finishes. They're just, when they're done right, it's magic. It's absolute magic. But it's I hate to say stuff like that is starting to become heavily overused, and it's losing its luster. And
Eddie could get away with it because that was his gimmick, but now everybody's it's like the DDT. It used to be a finish, now it's, or the cutter. Yeah, the cutter. Those used to be finishes, and now you'll see that at any show you go to 1,000 times.
And the thing is, if you really think about it, look at the matches that Eddie would have on SmackDown from like 03 to 05. That's when he really developed. Now, the Latino Heat character from like 2000 to 2002 was great. He had the same kind of the cheating style, but he just didn't have those facials 100% to where you knew what he was about to do. Once you got him tagging with Chavo and they would do the tag finishes, you could just see Eddie would go, he'd have that like, I got that smirk, I'm about to do something. And the crowd's like, oh,
and he was letting you in. He was letting you in on the fun.
Whether he was a baby face or a heel, you knew and you were entertained. And God, it pains me.
He didn't insult your intelligence.
No, he didn't. But it pains me because Eddie Guerrero would be such a valuable asset today. To any company.
Yeah, one of my dream matches is Eddie Guerrero in his prime versus Randy Savage in his prime with Miss Elizabeth. Either one could do the babyface or heel role. I feel like in this scenario, Eddie is gonna be more heelish, but neither one's truly gonna be a bad guy or babyface. But Eddie, think about it, with Miss Elizabeth there, the very first thing that Eddie's gonna do, Yo, mamacita, you want some Latino heat? And then here comes, that's the trigger for Macho Man. And suddenly you can go any direction you want. And those two were so good at what they did, man. I am so mad that we can't have that match. That's one of my dream matches.
There's so many matches that we should have had. I feel like there's so many matches that just should have happened, but unfortunately, life happens, things happen, and things don't get to work out that way. But we should just definitely be thankful that we got to live in a time where we got to at least see the performers doing their thing. So I gotta think of another one. I gotta think of another one to follow that one. So I'm gonna go with I'm staying in the Attitude Era only because that's what I grew up with. I didn't grow up with the New Generation. I didn't grow up in the Hulkamania era. But an absolute car crash, WrestleMania 17, the TLC match. It is no secret I am a huge Dudley Boys fan. So anytime the Dudleys are involved in a match, I'm all for it. Especially when you get the talent of Edge and Christian and the Hardys all mixed together. It's a perfect storm of creativity and violence. And the TLC match from SummerSlam 2000 was amazing.
I don't think they ever had a bad TLC match.
No, at least that crew. And then you go on to WrestleMania 17, which is the second official TLC match.
Mm-hmm.
And that you up the stakes. You're in a huge dome arena. You've got, God, what was it, 90,000 fans for the Astrodome for that show? 90,000 plus.
Something like
then
that.
You factor Then you factor in 3 wild cards getting involved with Rhino, Lita, and Spike Dudley. It was just a recipe for just pure chaos. Um, Again, it's just one of those, it's one of my favorite matches just because you can't look away from it. There's so much going on that, yeah, is it too much? Maybe, but is it
At the
entertaining?
time,
100.
no, it wasn't.
Didn't matter. And it's one of those things, like, they were put mid card. There was plenty of filler before them, after them, before you got to Austin and Rock. But man, it's one of those great. Now we got to follow
Follow
the
that,
kids and
boys.
their
Yeah.
their
Flippy
TLC
kid, the
match,
Flippy
man.
kids went out there and did all the shit. They didn't save anything for the main.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, up until the finish, the crowd was with the main 100%. So it's not like it killed the crowd, but again, it's just those guys had such chemistry. They knew how to sell for each other properly. They knew how to react. They knew how to put things together. They just had great chemistry. I don't think we'll ever see um, chemistry between 3 teams like that. There was magic between those 6 guys, and the fact that one of them is not in the Hall of Fame, but 5 of them are.
They are all Hall of Fame caliber talents, one way
Yeah.
or the other, regardless of
Wait,
who
hang
is.
on. Wait, the Hardys aren't in the Hall of Fame. I'm very wrong
No,
with
the
that.
Hardys are not in the Hall of Fame,
I don't know
but
why I
I
was
think
thinking the
we can
Hardys were in the Hall
all
of Fame.
agree, as far as the careers go, all of those
Hall of Fame.
people are all Hall of Fame talent right there. Um, I tend to agree. I've always been an Edge fan. I've told the story a lot. The very first time I ever laid eyes on Edge, all the way back when he was in the Brood, I said, within 30 seconds of seeing him for the very first time, I said, that guy's going to be world champion someday. Now, I didn't, I'm 11, 12 years old at this point. I understand that, this is television. This is not, there's not really a dead guy walking around trying to, bury people up. But I saw this guy. He had the look, he had the athleticism, he had the cool entrance. I said he's going to be world champion someday, and I will not say I was arrogant enough to think he was going to have the career he had, but I just knew by looking at him that guy's going to be world champion someday, and I was vindicated when it finally happened. I said, "Yep." And obviously, he's back on television now, having a renaissance. But all 6 of those guys in that match are, like I said, some of the most Hall of Fame worthy performers I could think of off the top of my head. I've had the fortune of working with Bully Ray, and in fact, I watched that match the other day, and I came out of that going, golly, Bully may not do flips and all the crazy shit that you come to expect on your random show now, but I'll tell you what, you can never say that you don't buy what he's selling, because he just has that aura about him that you believe.
Man,
He's terrifying.
It is something about just, it's his demeanor. Even as Bubba Ray Dudley, he
You
demanded
knew
a
that
presence.
bastard was tough.
Between him and Billy Gunn, I don't know who would scream the loudest when being aggressive in the ring, because Billy Gunn was Bubba, God, oh, I'm gonna get you, you son of a bitch.
The guys up in
like,
the cheap seats could hear without the microphone.
Oh, especially if Bubba was doing an overhand chop.
I had him and Pillman at Warrior. It was a Chicago street fight, and you watch some of the gesticulations in that match from me. Not that you should be watching me in their match, I'm not saying that, but if you happen to, there's not a lot of acting going on there, save for a couple of key moments. A lot of that is just honest reaction of, oh my God, Brian is still alive from that. Like,
yeah,
I thought I was going to go watch the public execution of Brian Pillman Jr. And Yeah. Just Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, however you want to name him, instant credibility just by the way he carries himself. And obviously his
Yeah.
resume speaks for himself. If you don't buy into him by now, there's something wrong with you.
Now, and you know, the Bully Ray character is great, but nothing touches heel Dudley Boys in ECW in terms of, oh my
Some
God,
of those promos, the big thing
they will
in the
not
news
make
right
it to
now.
Peacock.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the news right now is they're editing stuff off of the network. I can't wait for them to discover the ECW wing.
Oh, I can't wait for them to find New Jack.
Ooh, that's gonna be fun. Oh, to be a fly on the wall there. But anyways, getting back on task. We are getting off. Let's go.
No, we're still talking about it.
Well, we
should
should probably
right
get back
stuff.
more to let's kind of pivot away from matches we've watched. Let's talk about matches we've had. What I'm not asking you to pick your favorite match or anything like that, and I would prefer that you steer clear of the obvious, because I feel like if I say name me a match you had fun with, you're immediately going to go to that match with Ricky Shane Page and Orange Cassidy for the 5th time now. Let's try to come up with new stuff that we haven't talked about yet in terms of matches that we just absolutely to this day still think about from time to time and go, wow, I had that match. Sorry to steal your favorite toy, but
Well, actually, there's another Orange Cassidy match I could throw in there.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
No, it's the reason why I bring up the one from the Collective was just because of the reaction and how pure it was. Now, in terms of like entertainment, what was fun for me, the first official GCW show that I worked, because I did Wombat the night before, but I did GCW, Long Live GCW in Nashville, and I had Eric Cannon versus Tony Deppen versus Orange Cassidy, and it was it was sort of a comedy match. I had a couple spots in it that I got to do, and got reactions from the crowd because it's what we wanted to do. And it stands out to me because it was such a fun match and the crowd was so entertained. And
that's what it's all
I
about.
I think I had probably the louder, aside from Orange Cassidy's entrance, when we did the thing where I chopped him on accident and I got the UF'd up chant. Man, I knew when we were getting that, I'm like, whoa, we got him. This is so cool that they're so invested in this match. And it's one of my favorites just in that whole like entertainment side. I'll talk about one that for me, for telling a story was fantastic, but I'll save that one.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Ray Horus versus Black Taurus from Mick Wrestling, Black Label Pro, available on IWTV. Go check it out. I'm gonna throw that one out there simply because I'm gonna just pull the curtain back a little bit. I am not bilingual by any stretch of the imagination. I know enough Spanish to either land me in a morgue or in a hospital, but either way they'll find me if I ever got lost in Mexico. So there wasn't a lot of communication going on between the three of us going over the match. I was able to understand what the finish was going to be, but that match sticks out in my mind for a few reasons. Firstly, I saved my mother's life during that match. My mother is sitting about 2 rows deep on the camera on the side to the left of hard cam, and I see them going into a dive spot. I see it coming because I know what I'm looking for. My mother is just sitting there in the crowd, just just having fun because she's got my little brother and his friend there. So like, My mother is not well versed in the ways of the business. She understands it's a business. But the intricacies and just physical cues would be lost on her, especially when we're talking about lucha. So I see this coming, and it's Black Taurus on the outside, and I already know it's coming. So as Ray is running, I just go to the ropes and I'm just waving, and I just go, move. And she gets the hit to move, and he goes outside for a plancha, and it hits the exact chair where my mother was sitting. So I say that I saved her life, and you can actually see it on the film. Like, I didn't even bother trying to hide it. I was like, get the hell out, because if that hits her, she's 50 something years old. I don't know how durable my mother is, but I'm not willing to find out on IWTV. So that's one of the first things that sticks out in my head. Secondly, it was just such a fun match, because I hadn't had a ton of experience with the lucha style. At least not guys that were shoot from Mexico. I'd get stuff from Chicago from people that like lucha, but they're not on the level of these guys. No offense to them, I'm not trying to bury them. It's just there's the genuine article, and then there's the American style. But so there's that, and just the last thing that really sticks out in my head is that I remember the crowd giving the this is awesome chant, which that's subjective. That obviously that is up to the crowd. It's not my place to say whether it was or not, but I just vividly remember that, and then us almost immediately going to the finish, and I just remember thinking, got out, leaving them wanting more, because you'll see that you'll get a lot of this is awesome, and then the match goes on for another 10 minutes. I always have felt that less is more. Leaving them wanting more is the right way to go. So it happens, and then 30 seconds later, we're out the door. So that was the first time I'd ever been in a match where money was, thrown into the ring. So that was pretty cool. I never saw a cut of that. I found out later I was supposed to get a cut by traditional rules, but I didn't care at that point. But it was just such a fun match. Like I said, Mick Wrestling, Black Label Pro on IWTV. It was a lucha match. There was a good visual, because Ray's not as big as Black Taurus, and they did a lot of stuff, and like I said, the crowd bought into it, and it was definitely one that I have enjoyed from my time with Black Label.
Oh man, I've never been in a match where money has been thrown in the ring, so that is definitely that's got to be a cool experience, though. I know several people who have had that happen, but never had it happen to me.
Happened one other time, and it was at Warrior. It was the Lucha Brothers versus A-Kid and Carlos Romo. That was fun too. They'd throw money in that, and I just remember Pentagon immediately after we cut the curtain, where's the money?
Yeah. As you should.
Well,
Yeah, well, yeah. So the match that I really enjoyed, and I don't talk about it a whole lot, I don't know why. I didn't want to pull back the curtain too much on the Orange Cassidy, Tony Depp, and Eric Cannon. I will now. I chose to do that match, and when I went to go tell them that I had their match, Deppen was excited because he knew they were planning something, and he said, "Oh, you're the right referee for this. You're gonna sell it. You're gonna do it right.
You're my Huckleberry."
So, in December of 2019, I was asked to fill in on a show in East Tennessee called Next Generation Wrestling, NGW. And it's a great show, absolutely fantastic card from top to bottom. The main event was the champion, Sean Hoodrich, it's the heel, versus Rich Swann. And this had been a feud. Yeah, Swanee. This has been a feud that had been going on for, I think, a year almost. like Swan almost getting the belt and not getting it. And then Sean's the champion and blah, blah, blah. He's this big heel. And they were doing the ref assignments. And I had the other referee is a retired wrestler who I've known for a long time. Great dude. He was the senior ref there.
Drop the name, brother.
And ring name is Sean Schultz. Real name is Tommy Phillips. He's absolutely A+ human being. He was an A+ wrestler. I hate that he had to retire due to neck issues. Just, he's a guy that should have been in WWE, in my opinion. Great wrestler. Even as a referee, he should be there right now. But we're getting the match assignments and Bob, and he's divvying them up. And I see Sean, he's doing the main. Well, about 10 minutes later, Hoodrich comes over. He goes, "Hey, just so you know, you're doing the main now." I said, "Why?" "Oh, well, me and Swan want you to do it because we got to tell the story, and you tell the story. You help us tell the story." So that kind of blew me away that I was requested to do this match to help tell this story. And the match itself was just brutal. Like they start in the ring, then they kind of brawl outside. It was made sort of a no contest kind of thing, just that way that we could get a finish. And I remember beforehand, Sean and Swan both like, "Hey, you got that dramatic, you dive to the count. Well, try to do it on a falsie or something, get the crowd to bite and let them know that's the end of the match." And so I did. And it was one of those, I did it. It was 1, 2, and you hear the crowd say 3, thinking I'm counting 3. And I come up signaling, "No, 2, he kicked out." And the crowd is up on their feet, stomping, clapping, cheering, screaming. And I'm like, whoa, we still have stuff to do. And it gets, bop, 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 bop. I get another falsie in there. They're up again. It's like they're wanting this. They're wanting more of this match, and we get to the finish. And I do it again. I hit this big dive. 1, 2, 3. I call for the bell, and I do the signal. New champion, new champion. Swan goes over. I go to get the belt, and next thing I know, the ring is just shaking violently. And I look around. All of a sudden, the crowd has hit the ring. And they're beating their hands and screaming and crying and cheering because Swan just toppled over Sean Hoodrich. And I bring him the belt and I'm trying to hold him up and he's crying. And I look in the crowd and they're crying. And it was just an emotional match. And it was, I put a lot of work into helping them. They put a lot of work into their match, and I feel like we told an amazing story, and the crowd was so receptive of that story. And that sticks out to me as like probably one of the favorite matches I've been a part of because of that crowd reaction, man.
That's what it's all about, baby.
You got him, dude.
All about.
I've never had that happen before or since, where a crowd is surrounding the ring and just pounding and cheering and screaming. And I'm trying to tell Rich something, and he can't hear me, and I'm standing right beside him. And it's just, man, I've got video clips saved on my phone of key points of that match that I show to people. It's just like, man, I was so proud of that work. In the eyes of what we as referees are supposed to do, I was a bit more extra in that match, but I was asked to do that because they wanted me to convey the excitement and the intensity that they were bringing. And I think it's probably some of my better work. There's not a lot of it. A lot of my work is not that great. I just, spoiler alert, not that good.
I think we're all our worst critics.
Oh yeah. But that's getting to raise Rich's hand and then coming through the curtain. And there's an ovation when we come through the curtain. Like everybody's right there, the curtain. Su Young's there, the whole locker room's there, Tate twins, bop, 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 bop. Everybody's excited, they're up because this was just, it was a sellout at the curtain and just amazing time, man.
Oh man, that's if you ever had this happen where belt or belts change hand and you present it to them and you raise their hand and the belt goes up and smacks you right in the head while you're in hard
Twice.
cam. Oh yeah, that happened to me at the Collective on the Black Label show. It was Besties in the World versus Violence is Forever. Besties do the honors. They drop the belts to Violence is Forever, and I get the titles and I bring it to them, and I want to say I grabbed Dom's hand and I go up and the belt goes and smack right in the head, and I can't sell it for shit, but I'm telling you right now that freaking hurt, and I'm just like, ow, you know.
I remember presenting a belt to somebody and they were excited and they raised their arm and like the side strap comes up and just cracks me right in the face. Like one of the side plates cut my nose or something.
Oh,
I
we're
just remember
talking the
getting
main plate here too.
Oh,
It
the
was
center
the
plate.
main, and it was the corner. I can't believe I didn't bleed.
Yeah, so spoiler alert to people, belts are heavy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
very.
a proper made belt is heavy. And when you get hit with it on accident, there's no selling that thing.
Oh yeah.
Hurts.
Oh yeah.
Man.
The one of the last ones I got, again, this is probably gonna be me putting over Black Label Pro because I talked to Mikey Blanton tonight. But from Quantum Leap, Eric Stevens defending the BLP championship versus Josh Alexander.
Oof.
Again, much like the last match, Horus and Taurus, I had never worked with these guys. Well, I'd worked with Josh once the show prior, but I had not worked, or not. Yeah, I'm sorry, I worked with Eric, not Josh. I had never worked with Josh before, and it was one of those matches where I got the finish. Is there anything I need to know about? Except I could just tell by the way they locked up, by the way they went for the lockup. I was like, oh, we about to go there. And it was absolutely one of my favorite matches that BLP has ever put out. Start to finish, absolute banger. These two beat the hell out of each other for a good 15, 20 minutes in and out. Just, it was another case of, the crowd was up for it. By the end of the match, I saw maybe 4 people that were still sitting, when it was all said and done, but the rest of the crowd was on their feet standing. Just one of those matches that, on paper, you just couldn't really, you knew it was going to be good, but your mind just wouldn't allow you to properly perceive what was going to happen. And it became abundantly clear very quickly that I better have my working shoes on because these brothers got their working boots. All right. So I was jazzed at coming out of that match. I'd probably put that on my short list of best matches of my career. Definitely one that I would recommend going and watching. Not for me, obviously, because, again, the referee is not the story here. But those two just absolutely, I couldn't tell you when or if they'd last wrestled each other before that, but I'll tell you what, they left it all in the ring. And I was talking to Mikey and I said, I'm kind of glad they never had a rematch, because I feel like if they'd gone for the rematch, it ran the risk of not being as good as the first match, because you'll see that sometimes.
Yeah. I had that same feeling about some matches, like let them have the one and done.
Yeah, one and dones are fine, because what did I say earlier? Leave them wanting more. Sometimes it's better to leave them wanting more than to actually produce. And yeah, just one of those things where they just beat the hell out of each other. And it was great. It was absolutely wonderful to be a part of. I cannot thank both of those guys enough for putting a match like that on and letting me be a part of it. But yeah, I would definitely say Quantum Leap, Black Label Pro, Josh Alexander versus Eric Stevens for the BLP championship.
Yeah, man, that's oof. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that one out. I haven't seen that one, but I can just imagine how just beefy that match could be.
It was beefy, and there was a lot of different stuff in there, man. There's brawling, there was mat wrestling, there, and everything in between.
I could literally see with those two it just being like
Go
a
watch it. It's
smorgasbord.
about an hour into the show. And you go ahead, tell me what you think. Like I said, it was probably one of my favorite matches of my career. Um, but yeah, that's all I've got. What about you? Take us home. You got anything?
Obviously I'm not gonna bring up Orange Cassidy and Ricky Shane Page again. That's I hold that one in high regards just for the storytelling and the crowd. Um, but I will put over a very recent match um, that I thought was absolutely fun to do, and it was fun to work, and I thought the match itself was great. And it was from Fight Forever. It would be Ace Steel versus MV Young versus Still Life with Apricots and Pears. Um, it was a fantastic three-way match. Um, I helped put some of that match together with them, and it was a lot of fun. We were cold, we were miserable, but once we got out there, we forgot about it, and just it was a fantastic match. Um, I will also put an honorable mention from Fight Forever, two other fantastic matches that I did. Effie and Homicide had no expectations of what I had no idea what to expect because it was in the death match block, thinking, oh, these guys are going to do death match stuff. No, only a fork was involved, but it was a great match. And then Lady Frost versus Molly McCoy. I thought those two had an absolute banger of a match. Um, Two very, very young and talented workers that need to be more places. I was very privileged to be a part of those matches, and as a fan of all the people involved, it was just great having that front row seat to their stuff. But I also had to be involved, so I those are my kind of like recent favorites.
Man, I'll tell you what, we've been blessed thus far to be able to have some really good times in wrestling. I cannot wait to get back in the ring and just kind of get out there and mix it up with the good brothers and sisters and see what else lies ahead. I'm not booked on anything until June the 5th. The return of Warrior Wrestling already announced. Kylie Ray making a splash here. She's coming back. We've got a whole caveat of or caveat. We've got a whole smorgasbord of talent that has been announced and is yet to be announced. Um, I can't wait. Warrior and Black Label are my homes. Those are two promotions that I hold near and dear to my heart. Um, Jesse, what's the next show for you?
At the time of recording this, I have our Action Clash taping for New South this upcoming Saturday. I believe it is the third,
Oh, so what would be two
I
days
think.
from the time that this drops? Thursday. So if you're
Yeah,
watching this on
because we
Thursday, it's
just
2 days from now.
yeah we just did we did a Action Clash taping this past Sunday in Huntsville, Tennessee, which there were a couple absolute banger matches off that card. I can't wait for those to air. And then as soon as I get through this weekend, it's just a couple more days until the collective weekend in Tampa. I am very, very excited for beach time, but I'm on as of right now, I'm on five GCW cards. I am on the first half of Acid Cup on Thursday. Then I am on Effie's Big Gay Brunch and Ricky Shane Page's Spring Break, since it's no longer Joey Janela's Spring Break. and then I'm on Allie's Hot Girl Shit, and then Unsanctioned Pro. So those are my 5 for Tampa right now, and I'm looking forward to all of them because there's some just again amazing talent.
Collective weekend is always, you just never know what's going to happen. Some of that stuff literally just happens instantaneously overnight or somewhere in between, where it, you know, a week prior it wasn't even a thought, and then it just happens. You just never know who's going to show up. You never know what's going to happen. Subject to change. Oh yeah.
Change.
Oh yeah. And
that
no
is the
more
biggest
is that appropriate than the collective weekend.
Then the collective weekend, especially with GCW, because you never know who is going to drop in to do a run in or be a part of a cluster or something. It's just amazing.
Right. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy day to give this a watch. Jesse, any words of wisdom for us before we close out here?
Just the simple, straightforward. Please do not add to the population. Do not subtract from the population. And please, 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 I'm begging you, do not be the reason why I have to have a safety briefing on Monday.
Boy. So for the crew of Pop Goes the Zebra, we want to wish you all a pleasant night and have a good evening. See you later.